Considering where my money went in that period in my life, I would call it an investment, as they would say, an investment in my happiness. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about why I started buying and collecting handbags at a young age. Before we start with the video, if you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. If these are the kinds of videos that you like watching, I would love it if you could subscribe and follow me on Instagram at TrishDLF. Before we go on with the video, I would like to preface this by saying that everyone has their own little luxuries. Some like to spend on cars, some like to spend on watches, on jewelry, on beauty treatments, and on travel. And it just so happens that mine are handbags. So I've loved designer handbags and fashion in general for as long as I can remember. Probably at 16 years old at the earliest. I got my first ever designer handbag when I was 18 years old, but I was only able to buy my first designer handbag with my own money when I turned 23. And that bag is the Balenciaga City over there. So that's the first handbag that I ever bought with my own money, and that's why it's sitting there for this video. So the quarantines made me realize a lot about personal finance and the future moving forward. And it's made me realize that I'm actually very thankful that I was able to build my bag collection at an earlier age, because now I can focus on other things in life, and well, basically the more important things in life. So I did start buying designer handbags when I was 23 years old. I feel like that's kind of early for some people, especially for those who started building their bag collections later on in their adult life. So when I started earning disposable income, that was actually when I started buying designer handbags. And actually, looking back now, I don't have any regrets, because at least now I know that I'm already done with that like spending part of my life, and now I'm more focused into building my finances. So in this video, I'm just going to be sharing with you guys my thought process when it came to buying designer handbags when I was younger. I started when I was 23 years old, and now I'm 27, so it's only been like a few years. But now that I've built up a collection, I can say that I'm kind of over that phase. So yeah, I'm just gonna be sharing with you guys my thought process back then. And the number one reason that I started buying designer handbags at an early age, because of ROI and cost per wear. As much as I love designer handbags and I love shopping, I'm actually a smart shopper, I would say. I believe in return of investment when it comes to handbags as well as cost per wear. And I feel like that's how people usually justify their expenses. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. And so because I believed in cost per wear, I just knew that the earlier I get the bag, the more cost per wear I would be able to get out of it. These bags are expensive and they're meant to last a really long time. A lot of the bags in my collection are already 5 years old, and they're still really good bags. My Balenciaga City, for example, that's the oldest bag that I've bought, and it's been with me since like 5 years ago, and it's still holding up really well. So these are like one of the things that I feel like I already got my cost per wear out of. My Chanel flap bags, for example, like for my reissue and my classic flap bag, I was able to get those bags at really good price back then, and I could just never justify it. Like, first of all, brand new flap bags and reissues are like over 300,000 pesos now, because of all the price increases. So back then, when it wasn't even 300,000 pesos yet, I think it was around like 250 at that time, brand new. And back then, I could just never justify spending that much money for a flap bag, like even for my reissue, which I bought. And the only way that I could justify the price point was if I get it pre-loved. And even at the pre-loved price, it is still very expensive. So my thought process in that was that I'm not only getting it cheap, but I would be able to ROI these bags as well as get my cost per wear, since I'm getting it at an early age. So these ones I think I bought in around 2016. So I would have been like, I think 24, 25 then. So how I justify these purchases was that I don't really plan to sell these bags. the Chanel flap or my reissue. I don't plan on ever selling them. So because I got those bags pre-loved, I felt like I justify the cost, because even at the pre-loved price, which is already around like half of a brand new price, not only did I get the discount on the cost, but I would also be able to get the cost per wear because I'd be wearing it till I die. And yeah, these bags really last a long time because the Chanel flap was already around like 15 years old when I got it. And yeah, they're really meant to stand the test of time. So I really plan to have that until like it dies. And I feel like by then, when it dies, whenever that is, maybe like another 10 or 20 years from now, I feel like I would already be able to get my money's worth out of it. Another thing, how I justify the cost per wear thing with buying bags at an early age, is that I always thought to myself that if I wait and buy this bag when I'm like 35, 40, 45, I wouldn't really be able to maximize the cost per wear because that age is closer to death and basically being old. So I won't be able to use that bag as much as if I bought it at an early age. Then I would be able to maximize using it more. My next reason would be that the bags were my only investment at that point in my life at 23 years old. And I'm probably using the term investment wrong in this, but at 23, my money really wasn't going anywhere else aside from the bank. When I was that age, I also went into the stock market and got burned by it, so I stayed away from it for a while. And at 23 years old, I was still in school because my course was a 5-year degree course. So yeah, I was already working part-time at 23 and I had extra money, and the stock market burned me, so my money was basically just chilling in the bank at that time. And this probably sounds like an irresponsible way to go about it, but my money was just sitting in the bank and I just thought it's not gonna go anywhere because first of all, I couldn't use it for business because I was still in school. I was also working part-time and the stock market burned me, so I couldn't put it there either. So as much as I had money in my savings and in like mutual funds, the extra money that I had was basically just sitting there, and I just thought like, and I'm telling you guys, this is probably an irresponsible way to think about it, but because my money was just sitting there and I had nothing to do with it, and because I was still studying, I was just like, you know what, might as well buy bags because at least I would be able to enjoy my money, and when I'm done with them, I can just sell them again and my money would be back. So at least like I would be able to enjoy my money while I was still in school and working part-time, rather than it just sitting in the bank earning like 0.2% annually. So that was like my thought process, that I'd rather just enjoy the money first since I have no responsibilities yet. And actually that really worked because I did spend a lot on pre-loved bags. So technically, if you look at it, I was able to enjoy my money for a while and then I sold the bags after and I got my money back. So my money's still there basically, but I was able to enjoy the bags for like a year or two while I was still in school and had nothing to do yet with my money. So yeah, that's basically how I went about it. So like for example, I had the Chanel, well actually both Chanels that I had that I sold, I got my money back on them. So the Chanel mini flap that I had with like the 4 grommets, I was able to get that I think for 135,000 pesos, and the Chanel wallet on chain, which I also sold, I was able to get that for I think 60,000 pesos. So those two I bought pre-loved. I used it for like a year and a half, and then I sold it for the exact same price. So yeah, that's what I meant by enjoying my money first while I had nowhere to put it yet at that time. So yeah, looking back, instead of my money sitting in the bank earning like close to zero, I was able to buy a bag, enjoy it, use it for a certain duration, and then sell it again, and now I have the money back. Obviously now I don't do that anymore. Ever since I got my license to be an architect, obviously I fixed my life and fixed all my finances. So I don't have that extra money chilling around account anymore. Because yeah, I feel like when I was younger, and basically the entire duration of the time before I got my license to be an architect, I really didn't have a goal in mind yet or any plan for my future basically. So I was spending the money on useless stuff like designer bags. But yeah, considering where my money went in that period in my life, I would call it an investment. As they would say, an investment in my happiness. So that didn't come from me. That was just some quote I saw on the internet. But yeah, when I was younger, I just invested in my happiness because I didn't have anything else to save for and I didn't have any big financial or career goals yet at that time. Number 3 reason and why I bought luxury at an early age is because I had no other obligations yet at that point in my life. So at 23 years old, I was still living with my parents, still am until now. But it is the culture here in our country to still live with your parents until you get married, which is why I'm still here. And so at that age, because I was still in school, although I was working a part-time, my parents were paying for my schooling, my housing, which was like a dorm back in college, my food. I actually still got allowance until that time. I think up until I graduated, which was in 2016, I still had allowance plus my part-time income. So yeah, I would say I really had like some spare cash to spend over during that time because yeah, everything was paid for. But obviously after I graduated, everything I already spent with my own money. So I also rented the dorm a little after graduation to study for the board exam. So obviously those expenses were already from my own money. And I also did move out last year. You guys saw that video. So I moved out from the house for work. So I rented a condo and that was also from my own income already. But up until graduation, everything was paid for. I am privileged to be in that situation, but that's mainly the reason why like I was really just spending all this money because I had no obligations yet. And finally, for my 4th reason, and I feel like it just all really boils down to this, and it is simply because of selfishness. This is something that I thought about really early on when I started buying designer handbags. I always went back to this, and I would always justify my purchases with the reasoning that this is the only time that I can be selfish. And it's true. When you're young, that's the time when you can really maximize being selfish because you only have yourself to take care of. You're not tied down to anyone. You're not tied down to any financial burdens like housing or car loans or anything like that. So that's really when I decided that I'm just really gonna maximize this time in my life when I can be selfish, because this is the time that I can really spend on things just for myself and not feel guilty about it. And I also thought about this a lot, especially knowing that I will have a family in the future and I will have kids to take care of. I really like designer handbags and I just didn't want to have that dilemma in the future where I would have to hold off buying something because I have children whose needs have to be met. But yeah, early on, I really knew that when I start my own family, it would entail a lot of expenses and that I wouldn't really have time for myself anymore, and there wouldn't be any space for me to be selfish because the children have to be my world and everything like that. At the age of 23, I was already thinking these things. And yeah, I just never wanted to go through that where I'd be like, oh, I want a bag, but my kids have needs that need to be met. So I feel like that's why I really just scratched that itch very on in my life, because honestly, like now, I look at bags and I'm just like, I can go without that bag. Like, I don't need that. Especially when I got the Chanel flap bag. That was really my holy grail, the classic flap. And ever since I got that, like, every other bag is just like, okay. Like, I feel like because the classic flap was the biggest itch that needed to be scratched, when I got it, like, every other bag was just like so and so. And it made me really just think about my purchases more, because every time I'd see something new and I feel like I want it, I would always ask myself. And because I already got the bag that I really wanted, which was the classic flap bag, every other bag I'm just like, I can do without that. Like, I like it, but I don't love it. So yeah, a lot of the bags now, I recognize that they are pretty, but I don't really have that urge to buy like every single bag that I see, because I feel like I already did that back then. So now I'm much more picky with the things that I buy. And just like before, I still have that rule where I only have like a minimum of 8 designer handbags. So that still stays true up to now. So yeah, still a 1 in, 1 out bag policy. And so far, it's been really great just following that practice, because yeah, you won't be able to use all your bags. So I feel like that's really the most practical way to go up until now. It might be hard for some people to understand on like why I needed to scratch this itch or like just buy everything now while I'm young. And I think like it's something to compare it to is traveling. Traveling isn't my thing, but a lot of people do it like minimum 3 times a year, right? Well, back then, before the whole COVID thing happened. So yeah, if it's hard for you to understand like the whole selfishness behind like buying the bags at an early age, I would compare it to travel, because like some people really love to travel and they really spend on travel, traveling minimum 3 times a year. And they also do that because of selfishness. And one of the main reasons, well, at least like from peers that I have, is that because when they're older, they know that it's going to be harder for them to travel. Not only because they're going to be preoccupied with life and their career and business, but they would have kids to take care of. And especially when you're starting a family, when the kids are young, you can't really travel that much yet. And some people, the reasoning with the whole traveling thing, why they travel so much every year, is that because when they're older, they're scared that it's going to be harder for them to walk around, to ride the plane, because their backs are gonna hurt and everything like that, which are also very valid points. So that's just like another way to look at it, how some people really maximize the selfishness when they're younger, so that in the future they would have more time and resources to spend for the plans and the life goals that they have. And for me, it just happened to be bags instead of travel. So yeah, that was all for this video. I don't really know why I talked about this video either, but I felt like it was something to ponder about, especially because this quarantine made me think a lot about financial goals and what have you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button down below to help the YouTube algorithm, and follow me on Instagram at TrishDLF. I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye!